Let's embrace innovative volunteerism.
So for now, we're gonna take a few questions from the audience. For the first one, I think this is addressed to Dr. Muna. Like you talked about actually about COVID-19 and earlier about COVID-19 and how it kind of increases the burden on the continent when it comes to food systems. So the question here is how the youth can recover from the COVID-19 impact and what opportunities exist for them. And what opportunities exist for them currently. The question is like, for example, in the UN system.
Thank you very much. The youth are already recovering from COVID-19 through what they were doing before COVID came in 2020. In Buganda Kingdom in Uganda, where we're working with youth, they were developing solar dryers. And during COVID-19, what we have documented is that most of the young people who were not part of voluntarily volunteering themselves to learn skills and to devise solar dryers were out of work. But these young people were making money because the solar dryers they developed, they were using a communal spirit in communities whereby the community was paying little money to use those solar dryers. So the young people were putting money in their pocket. The community was drying their food so that it doesn't get wasted and putting more money in their pocket as well as food on the table. That is working. It was the same in Nigeria. It was the same in Togo. It was the same in Ghana. So that has proven that when solutions that are needed by the community are in place, even in emergencies, there will be that resilience and sustainability of action that can help. And what we are doing with our work within UNEP is that we are leveraging on the ingenuity and innovativeness of young people and guiding them and giving them the skills and the tools so that at least they can sustain with solutions as we guide them through this logic of innovative volunteerism. Of course, within the UN system, there is really also the United Nations Volunteers Program, but not everybody can be part of it. We have over 7.4 billion people in the world, but everybody can be part of innovatively volunteering his or herself to learn skills, to devise solutions. And that is the kind of thinking, especially within the climate change program, which I had, that we are trying to engineer so that everyone can be engaged, regardless of which community or which country it comes from, to be guided to then become part and parcel of devising climate action solutions.
And Dr. Munan, you talked a lot about inspiration and how we can also help the youth, see the potentials that they can tap into and they can also gain from it. There's a question here about how can agriculture be made cool to the young generations?
Culture is already made cool to the young generation, but the problem has been the narrative. And I said this very bluntly. It's about production, where we made you to think that you need to have a farm or a piece of land before you can engage in agriculture. That's a false narrative. Agriculture in the continent, we lose 48 billion every year because of post-harvest losses. That means we are producing enough. What does that mean? The young people should intervene with ideas and innovations in reversing those post-harvest losses. So we are seeing that they're developing ICT, information communication technology applications that are connecting farmers to markets. In Kenya, here, young people who work with develop what is called Bago Pamoja, where they are helping farmers to have access to inputs to fertilizer, access to solar dryers, where you sit with just with the touch of a phone. That is happening. That's already cool. Agriculture is cool, where we are seeing young people actually who don't have anything to do with a farm or with land, purchasing cassava that has been produced by mothers in villages and turning it to cassava flour. That's making agriculture cool, where they are buying already products that are produced in communities and turning them, adding value to them by drying in solar dryers and marketing to other countries, leveraging on already the Africa continental free trade. That's making agriculture cool. So agriculture cool is happening. And we should build on it rather than asking whether it is how it's going to be made cool to young people.
I have a hand, Lorden.
Hi, I was writing my question, but I heard you were about to wrap up, so I just raised my hand instead. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, so my question might be a bit more relevant for Dr. Richard, because throughout the panel, you both talked about the importance of like having more, if I quote Peyton, bottom up mentality. And Richard, you also talked about how it's important to change the narrative into more solutions-based mindset. So I was wondering, putting those two elements together, if you had, Dr. Richard, ideas onto how we could throw opportunities to Africans, for example, and placing them more as like people who have a lot of knowledge to share to the North rather than the other way around, because I feel like we're often focused on that dynamic. So yeah, that was my question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I think, I mean, that is a very amazing question. I think the point is this, I always say this, we do not do development for people. People do development for themselves. Our role in whatever capacity is to facilitate and inspire people so that at least they can take what they are doing to the next level. What do I mean by this? The reality is, and I'll still go back to what I said, there is no absence of solutions on the ground, but there are gaps. Our intervention should then be to build on what is happening to close the gaps without necessarily reinventing the wheel. And the focus should also to build on what has worked to help inform policy and drive policy change. And that's where data becomes very, very important. The top-down approach has been what has been missing the point, where policy proliferation sometimes fills a gap but does not translate to touching a mother's life in a village. I always ask this question in anything: how does it affect a mother and a young boy and girl in a village? Regardless of where we are, it doesn't really matter. So the point is that in every aspect we want to intervene, let's always ask that question: how does it build on what was already happening in village A, and then take it to the next level that can then better the lives of each and everyone? And I think that kind of spirit is the kind of way that we can then be able to bring impact to scale. But to do that, we must build on institutions that already exist. And in this case, communal cooperatives. Let's tap into that. That has been missing in the equation of either climate financing or climate discourse. The second is, let's make sure that at least we tap into the ingenuity of young people and make them see themselves as a solution provider. And there is just one aspect here that I mentioned it, and I want just to recalibrate it again. The young people sometimes have nearly everything it takes in terms of innovations and ideas, but they don't work together. And that's a very big problem. Collective, the biggest individual action is collective action. Alone, we can only do as much, but together we'll do much more. And I think that goes back to that narrative. So if we continuously drive those two aspects, then gather what is happening at the community with what the youth are doing and push for a policy change so that at least we can have the right incentives to drive. But when we start bottom up, it will just be at good and it will end in some areas that may not necessarily be able to take transformation forward. That's what we've learned from our work, the work we do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Richard Moonen, Peyton Mitchell, and thank you all of our audience, Seed Concordia, for organizing this event. I hope everyone enjoyed it as much as I did and felt inspired. So that would be the end of our panel discussion. So thank you everyone for joining us. And as I said, I hope you enjoyed the event.
You offer value to him by being useful to fellow man, and to punish those who bury their talent. This is innovative volunteerism. It is for you to make a difference.